So we encourage you to ask any questions you may have. We are here to serve you. Like we said earlier, we want to make sure you feel confident. So definitely use the chat feature in your Zoom functions or to ask any questions. And like I mentioned, we will stay on until every single question you have is answered. So please ask away. And then lastly, every effort has been made to make sure that we are safe from Zoom bombers, but in the event that it does happen, we'll simply just reboot the computer and hop back on using the same login information. So it hasn't happened yet, and we'll make sure we work through that. Thank you all for being here. So why financial literacy? I mean, like I mentioned earlier, it's Financial Literacy Month, and it just really goes back to making sure that our students from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade and everybody in between has a sense of what this looks like and why it matters to save money for college, why it matters to plan how they'll get to college and how they'll pay for it. We get questions all the time, especially from our younger students about, hey, how much does college cost? And how can I get to that college? And what if I can't afford it? And so being a school counselor in the past, I work with many families that had these very same questions. So it's great that we are focusing our efforts to help you as families because you are your child's first teacher. So if we can empower you, we know that you can help our students as well as they plan for college and for a career.
So I just want to, our county superintendent, Dr. Edwin Gozman, is really focusing on financial literacy and paying for college, budgeting. Last night we talked to parents about credit reports and how to help your student build their credit as they graduate high school. So there's more to life after graduation. And so we want to make sure our students in Riverside County really feel geared, ready not to take on credit card debt as soon as they graduate high school, and also just to help our families make really good decisions and seeing what opportunities are out there. So there'll be more sessions, more to come as well, and in the future. So be on the lookout. Now that you register for one session, you'll be on our listserv, and we'll invite you to other opportunities to learn more. Please know this PowerPoint will be in both languages. You'll hear it in the language, your language that you chose, but we will have slides in there that do have both languages for our Spanish-speaking families.
Thank you. So I want to introduce our wonderful speaker this afternoon. Just amazing, has so many knowledge base and so many resources to share with you all and talking to you about scholarships and how to get that free money for college. I want to introduce to the virtual stage Ms. Ventrice Shacklin. Ventrice, are you there?
Talking to myself as usual. Thank you, Dr. Caro. I appreciate it. And welcome, everyone. My name is Ventrice Shanklin, and I'm with Sally Mae. I'm going to share my screen with you. Bear with me a second. Everybody should be able to see my screen, so thank you. And I just want to tell you a little bit about Sally Mae. Sally Mae is a college planning, saving, and paying for college organization. And we not only have financial literacy materials, we also offer private education loans. I like families to know all of their options to pay, just in case there are no scholarships or they don't get scholarships, and they know what all of their options are for financing and education. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I'm going to turn off my camera so I'm not a distraction. All right. Bear with me 1 second here. Okay. So today we're going to talk about what we'll learn about today is college costs and how scholarships can help. And scholarships are free money. You do not have to repay them. I talk about scholarships all the time. Anytime you can get free money, it's money that you don't have to come out of your pocket for or take out a loan. There are a variety of scholarship resources that we'll touch on. The importance and ease of scholarship search engines. So it's a scholarship search tool that you can find many scholarships on. How to create a winning scholarship essay, and then tips on applying for scholarships. So let's start with college costs and how scholarships can help. This slide is a little busy, so bear with me here. What's the average cost of college? So in that first section, we're looking at a public 2-year community college. And what we've outlined here is the tuition fees and this is nationally, so this is a national average, tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies in the gray area, transportation, and then other expenses. And some colleges will charge, various expenses such as parking fees or health fees, just different types of fees. So you want to factor that in as well. I won't read these all to you, but you can see the varying costs depending on what type of school that your student or your student chooses. You can see that very last one, a private 4-year university, is going to be a little more expensive, but don't let that deter you, because colleges sometimes have institutional funds that they can offer to students. So the cost may be very comparable once you look at your financial aid package as one of the state schools. This is a slide on how families are paying for college, and I'll briefly touch on this. I think Dr. Caro said earlier, families ask, if my students in, 3rd or 4th grade, how can I get started? I think one of the really good ways to start is either with like a 529 college savings plan, which can also be called a Coverdale account, or just by starting to save. I have a 12-year-old grandson. We started saving when he was, before he was even born. And what we do is we collect recyclables, and any money that he gets for his birthday or anything, it goes into his college savings account. So if you want to start somewhere, you can start small just by opening up a savings account and putting a little bit of money out there. And any money that you can save is money you don't have to take out in a student loan. So scholarships and paying for college, about 64% of scholarship recipients use scholarships from the college. So many colleges do have scholarships that they offer to students, whether that be, students with high need, or maybe they're high achievers in academics. So it just depends on the college or university. And 27% of scholarships from the community, with an average amount of $2,204. I know the church that I attend, they often give out scholarships to students who attend that church. And then 29% of scholarship recipients use scholarships from the state or local government. So there are state grants and scholarships available, so they could be state specific. And that's why it's so important. And I'll talk about the free application for federal student aid in a minute, but that's why it's so important to complete that form. Sorry, my mouse isn't working. This is the same information in Spanish, and I'll leave that slide up for a second. While we talk about I'll talk about the FAFSA, and then the next slide I have will go over that free application for federal student aid. So the FAFSA form, I'll go ahead and go to that slide. It's a free application for federal student aid, and the operative word is free. So you do not have to pay to complete it. Any college or university can help you, or high schools, it helps students and parents complete the FAFSA all the time, every year. Your student will complete the FAFSA form on October 1st of their senior year. So if your student is graduating this year in 2021, then they would complete the FAFSA form on starting October 1st. The earlier they fill it out, the more financial aid, at least from the school's perspective, will be available to them. So fill it again, free application for federal student aid, free is the word. And then what do you need to fill out the FAFSA? You need your social security number, so the student and the parent, alien registration number, if that's applicable. You need federal income tax forms, and you can see for the student in that orange box, if they're attending in fall of 2022, spring 2023, then you'll need your 2020 taxes. And if you have a circumstance, from the 2020 taxes, if you don't make the same money you made, whether it went up or down, you want to let the financial aid office at the school know that your circumstance has changed. And especially if for some reason you've lost a job, or someone, your spouse has lost a job, you want to make sure that they have that information, because there could be more financial aid available for your student. And that last, why FAFSA matters. The FAFSA gives families and students access not just to federal loans, but also state aid. California has a California grant program. That deadline is March 2nd. So if you fill out the form in October, or if you wait, you want to make sure that you complete that FAFSA form by March 2nd, which is the California grant deadline, so Cal Grant deadline. So those are two very important dates. Sorry about that, my screen froze on my side. So the cost of attendance are those, is the cost that it costs to go to college. And I'll show you that in a second, what that consists of. So as mentioned earlier, the cost of attendance is the estimated average cost to attend for 1 year, so fall through spring, at any college, university, school, any school you plan to attend. It includes direct costs and indirect costs. So for students attending at least half-time, it could include tuition fees, books, supplies, room and board. And then those indirect costs are, transportation, I got to eat. So personal expenses. And colleges usually adjust the cost of attendance every year, and it goes up about 2 to 5%. So you have to take that into account depending on what year you are in school. So just take into account those cost of attendance changes depending on where your student is in school. Expected family contribution is a measure of a family's financial strength and is calculated according to a formula established by law. I've never been able to figure out what that formula is, but the Department of Education, they have some method that they use to come up with that expected family contribution. All the information that goes into that number comes from that free application for federal student aid. So all the information that you put on there will spit out a number that the schools use to determine how much financial aid your student will receive. So the school will take the cost of attendance minus the expected family contribution, which equals the financial need. That expected family contribution that comes from your FAFSA, that number will stay the same no matter what school your son or daughter attends. So now let's dive into scholarships, and we'll talk more about scholarships, who is considered, and where you can find scholarships. Scholarships are financial awards that do not have to be repaid, and I want you to remember that it's free money. So anytime your son or daughter are looking for scholarships, if there's a fee associated, then you want to stay as far away from those as possible. Some scholarships can cover the entire cost of tuition, or it could just be a one-time award of a few $100s. So, but either way, it's worth applying for because it helps you reduce your overall cost. When should you apply for scholarships? And remember, each scholarship has its own unique requirement and how to apply. So each scholarship will also have its own application deadline. You'll find some that are what they call rolling awards. So until the scholarship provider finds the right recipient, it may not have a specific deadline date. So you'll see those from time to time. So how to apply for scholarships. Sorry, lost my place there. Scholarship websites are really good. And I'll show you a few search engines that will help. What they do is these search engines is they have a bunch of scholarships in one place. So they aggregate them. You fill out a little profile and you tell the scholarship company about yourself, and then they can match you with scholarships that you can apply for. Same information in Spanish, and I will leave that up for a second. And then also keep in mind that each scholarship, it may ask for something different. So you may have to write an essay, or your student may have to, some of them will ask even for a video or some type of recording. And many will ask for letters of recommendation, which I think is very helpful. You can ask your school counselor or maybe your favorite teacher for a letter of recommendation. Here's the best thing about scholarships is you don't have to really be #1 in your class or some type of all-star athlete to get a scholarship or free money. Some scholarships are based on academic achievement, sports, scholarships for people with red hair. I've seen scholarships for people with that are left-handed, religious affiliation. So companies have to give away money and they have to find some criteria around it. So I wouldn't count out anything because there's just all kinds of scholarships out there. Scholarships can also be need-based, merit-based, based on hobbies, field of study. My daughter got a scholarship because she's a vegetarian with some company that was giving away a scholarship. And it was a substantial amount of money. She talked about why she wanted to save the planet. So they did send her a check. Scholarship resources. So there are many scholarship resources. And while a good portion of the scholarships come directly from a college or university, there's many private scholarships available. So there's thousands of them offered by schools, employers. If you're employed, if your parents are employed, they can ask if there's any scholarship programs through their employer. Individual private companies give out scholarships. Like I said, religious groups, social organizations, and then online search engines, in my opinion, is one of the best places to start. Also, the information in Spanish as well. Now we'll talk about the importance and ease of scholarship search engines. And like I said, there's probably the easiest way to start because you can just sit in front of your computer and apply. These are 3 of the largest. Sallie Mae, which is the organization I work for. FastWeb is another good search engine, as well as the College Board. And they aggregate scholarships into one place. So all you have to do is complete one profile, and then it'll match you with scholarships that you can apply for. One thing to remember is always keep your profile up to date. Say if you get ready to go to school and you choose engineering as a major, and then you get to school and you change to another major. So just go back into the profile and put whatever major that you changed to, and that way the tool will come back and match you with scholarships that are more related to your major or field. So once your profile is created and as new scholarships are added to one of these databases, the students notify of new scholarship opportunities that match their profile. So maybe you you thought you were going to go to a school in California, but you want to go out of state. You want to make sure that you update that information in there. What to look for in a scholarship search engine. So you want to look for search engines that are free. Again, like I said, you do not have to pay for a scholarship. It's free money someone's giving you, so you shouldn't have to pay a fee. You want to look for a company that validates their scholarship, so the deadline dates are up to date, and they have an easy application type process, and it's very transparent. And a calendar listing scholarships by deadline. It's very frustrating when you go into something and you can't tell when a deadline date is. Email alerts when new scholarship matches are available is important. The ability to update and save your profile, like we talked about, if you change your major, then you want to go into the tool and change your major as well. That way you have scholarships applicable to you. And then mobile friendly. You know, these kids nowadays, that everything's on their phone. So if you can apply on your phone, then that's very helpful. Leave that up for a second. And then the next slide we'll go to, it'll show you a little bit about what a profile looks like when you're completing a scholarship profile on one of those search engines. And it's very similar. So it'll ask your state of residence, because like I said, sometimes there are state specific scholarships. Citizenship status is really important. So if you are not a citizen, you can put in there that I'm not a citizen. And about, at least in the Sallie Mae scholarship tool, there's about 22% of the scholarships that do not have a citizenship requirement. So you want to make sure you're honest and you just answer that question so they can match you with scholarships that you can apply for as a non-citizen. It'll ask for your gender, just in case there's any gender specific scholarships, your ethnicity, your age, what year you are in high school, your academics, and then any extracurricular activities or clubs that you're associated with as well. There could be club or organization specific scholarships. This is just an example of what the matches would look like. So as you can see, that first one, deadline October 31st, 2021, no essay is required, and it's a $2,000 scholarship. And I tell students, don't count out the scholarships that, you know, are $100, $500, because those do add up. So just think, if you spent 20 hours a week and you got two $100 scholarships, I mean, that's a good chunk of change that really you're making per hour. So you could probably make more in scholarships than at a part-time job. And they don't take out taxes either. But you can see the types of scholarships that are on here. There's one for Jumpstart. There's an student athletic scholarship. There's just all kinds available. And it'll come back with, you know, literally hundreds at a time. So after you've been matched with possible scholarships, you'll need to do a little work to apply. I think that's why some students don't apply, because there is a little work involved. And each application will have its own criteria, and some will require an essay. So we're going to talk about just some tips on how to create a winning essay. So you want to start the process early. That's very important. If you're there are some scholarships for freshmen and sophomore students. So you want to build a profile even if you're a freshman student, and then the scholarship organization or the provider will hold that scholarship for you when you get to go, when you're ready to go, good grief. So when you're ready to go to school, then you'll have that scholarship available. So even if you don't find anything right away, there are scholarships available for freshmen and sophomore students. So you want to understand the provider's overall mission and purpose. So like I said, my daughter got a scholarship for being a vegetarian from a organization who, wants to save the earth. And then follow the instructions. So if they ask for an essay or a video, you want to make sure you follow the instructions. Create an outline to organize your thoughts. And that's just important when you're writing any type of essay, just so you can organize your thoughts and you have on paper what you would like to say. Don't be afraid to get personal. I have looked over scholarship applications before, and I love personal stories. Tell me why you deserve to win this scholarship. So don't be afraid to tell a personal story. Ask for advice and feedback. So if your parent or another student or a counselor, a teacher, someone who can give you feedback on what should be in that essay. You can ask for, neatness and spelling and grammar matter. I did a presentation last week, and this poor girl asked a question, and she said that she put the whole body of her email in the subject line of the email. So when she showed it to me on the screen, it looked really strange. It's just those kinds of things that do matter when you're asking for letters of recommendation or anything, is just have someone look it over before you send it. And then be persistent. I told my kids when they were in school that looking for scholarships, you don't have a job, so make that your full-time job. You can spend a few hours a day looking for free money to just offset some of those expenses. Keep in mind that each scholarship provider is looking for students who meet a certain criteria. So that's why they have those application processes. So you want to consider writing an experience or interest that highlights your strong ties to an organization's mission. If you have a passion and enthusiasm for something, just make sure to follow all the necessary steps. And you can write one essay and then tailor it to that specific scholarship provider. So if you're filling out 5 scholarship applications in a day, you can have one essay and then just tailor it for each one of your scholarships. Here's some additional tips for writing a scholarship essay: is be original and honest. State clearly why you deserve to win the scholarship. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with saying, I deserve this scholarship. Avoid unnecessary information that the scholarship provider has to read through. Sometimes scholarship providers will have a committee of people that are looking at scholarship applications to determine who they're going to award the money to. So you want to make sure that you get to the point, you're original and honest. And then just be inspirational and positive in your tone. Here's some additional tips on applying for scholarships. I'll just summarize a few of those. As we talked about being organized, I would suggest just having an Excel spreadsheet. And then every time you fill out a scholarship application, you write in a box the deadline and who the scholarship application was for, what company it was for. And that way you can just stay organized. Be authentic. So just let the scholarship provider know who you are and what you've accomplished. There's nothing wrong with talking about yourself. Know and understand the requirements for that particular scholarship. They're asking for a video and maybe you don't want to do a video, then I would just move on to the next scholarship. But there are specific requirements for each one of these. Include strong recommendations, so you can ask teachers or counselors or someone in the community who you know to write a recommendation letter on why you should win that scholarship. And then create a lasting impression. Your essay should be to the point, it should be authentic, and just very positive. Here's some additional tips for scholarship application success. Meet the deadlines. Scholarship, unless they're, rolling awards where they're just looking for the right person, you'll see a deadline. List important accomplishments first. So you want the reader to have that information right at the top. Showcase your honors and awards. Like I said, it's nothing wrong with talking about yourself. Don't rule out smaller scholarships because they can definitely add up. I told us a little story during the last presentation where I met a young lady who paid for all 4 years at a private university with scholarships. So that's all she did. She said, I don't want my parents to have to pay for anything or take out loans. So I will look for scholarships. And then start applying your junior year for scholarships. And that way you can be ready when it's time to go to college. Your family's not scrambling for funds. You've already done a little bit of work. The information in Spanish as well. And students, they write essays in school at this point. So Shouldn't be new to them. Just creating one and then using it over and over for the various scholarships.
And Ventrice, I was just going to add, if it's okay, if you are a junior right now, so you're a junior about to be a senior next year, or you're a parent or guardian of a junior, we're actually this year paying for a platform called Story2 that teaches our students how to write stronger scholarship essays, college application essays. So we've been announcing them, and we've already had 2 sessions. Free of charge. Riverside County Office of Education is paying for that service and those boot camps for your students. And they really do what you talked about, Ventrice, of walking them through finding their story, what makes them unique. Some students will say, I don't know what to write. I'm not sure. I don't have anything unique to write about. And by the end of this first boot camp, you really get some ideas of to really have a standout scholarship essay. So if you're a junior, if you're in class of 22, or you're a parent or guardian of someone that's a student that's a junior, if you want to go ahead and send me a private chat, your email address, and I'll make sure you get on that listserv. We're going to do another boot camp this May. So just wanted to add that, Ventrice. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I think that is so important. Everyone has a story, and everyone has every single person, every single student, they have a story of some, and because you live it every day, you don't think about it, but just tell that story. And that's what these scholarship providers want to hear. So thank you. So once you win the scholarship, there are some things you really need to understand is, how will I get my money? Some scholarship providers will send the funds directly to the school, or they'll send a check to you. They should be transparent in their application, and it'll tell you funds come to the family or they go directly to the school to pay those tuition costs. How will the scholarship affect other financial aid? And it could, most schools will reduce student loans. If you have to take out a student loan, if you get a scholarship, they send it directly to the school. It could reduce other financial aid that your student receives. So you want to make sure you're aware of the school's policies. And then most importantly, what are the renewal requirements? So you could have to maintain a certain GPA if you got a scholarship based on that. Or like I said, if you change majors, maybe that scholarship provider only gave scholarships to people students in a certain major. So you want to make sure that you understand that, so you're not left with having to scramble on, how do I pay for my next year or my next semester because I lost my scholarship. The information in Spanish. Another thing to remember is, when we talk about how it affects my financial aid, is all student financial aid added together cannot exceed that cost of attendance. So whatever the school, and you can find any cost of attendance for any school on their web page. So whatever financial aid you receive can't exceed that amount. So you may have other financial aid that's reduced because your student received a scholarship. You can check with the school to find out how they make those adjustments, and they'll tell you. Sallie Mae has a Paying for College resource. It's free. You can go on and watch videos about scholarships and grants. There's videos on FAFSA, videos on how to read a financial aid offer, and that's the information that'll come to you once the school determines how much financial aid your student is eligible for. They'll send you this offer letter, and you'll get one from if you put 10 schools on your free application for federal student aid, you'll get 10 of these financial aid offers. And that way you can make the best choice for your family on which school your student will attend. I can tell you that they all look different, so don't be discouraged. There are tools out there to help you compare. There's a comparison chart for financial aid offers on this website, so this Paying for College website. And that way you can type in some information and just compare each offer. And then I also put the Sallie Mae Scholarships URL up there for your convenience. I would go on, even if you have a freshman student, and just have your student complete a profile. And that way they can see what's entailed in completing a scholarship application and what's required. And that way you know what to look forward to when they're able to apply in their junior year. If you're a junior, you should be applying for scholarships right now. And Catalina and Dr. Carl, we are at questions.
Yes, perfect. We have time for questions, plenty of questions. Love it. Thank you. And parents at private chat, sent me a private chat. I will put your email down and just be on the lookout for, we're going to announce some May dates. The platform we're using is Story 2. But do not, definitely you can go onto the platform, but don't pay for anything. The county office is paying for this for our juniors. And we're hoping to continue with this. So if you have a sophomore or a freshman, I'm going to do everything we can so we can continue this partnership. But we are really trying to help our students stand out and really give them that leverage. A lot of our students didn't get to take obviously SAT and ACT, and their essays are going to really matter this year more than ever. So we're doing everything we can. Our team at RCWE, we're doing everything we can to help support you. So please, we'll make sure you get that as soon as we announce our May dates. We'll go ahead and get that out too, so you can sign up. And we do them after school. So we do 5 to 7:30. And then we'll probably do some things over the summer for our juniors as well. So once school's done and they can really focus on their essays, we'll probably have some support for them in the summer as well. So we're doing everything we can. Hopefully you realize that we know this is unprecedented times, but we don't want to let this pandemic and everything we've been through stop you and your students and your children from their college dreams. So I'll make sure to get that information out to all those who came today as well. So I know we probably got a few questions. I'll let Dr. Gatto go first, please. And please use the chat. We're going to use the chat to ask questions, or if you want to even unmute yourself, we can do that as well. So go ahead, Dr. Gatto. I think you might have a question. You might have had a few.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. First of all, just great presentation, Ms. Shanklin. Thank you so much for that wealth of knowledge and resources and information. I was jotting notes down as well. So one thing that you mentioned that I thought was very interesting was the piece about the essay writing component and how that can be a struggle sometimes. So I wanted to know, in terms of like top 2 best practices, especially for families that have little ones joining us, like they might have somebody in middle school or elementary. I get a lot of, what can I do for my younger students right now? How can I get them college ready? What are maybe your 1 or 2 top ideas for families that are listening in on how they can help their little ones get college ready? Is it like looking at college visits? Is it writing like a mock essay? What are some best practices that they could do to help their little ones just get excited for college and for scholarships?
I think that's a great question, Dr. Carl. And I remember I live close to UC Riverside, so I remember going on campus and you see not really elementary school students, but middle school students just on campus, and they were just in groups, and they get super excited because that's their field trip for the month. But two things you did mention are very important, is to help students understand at least what an essay is and why it's important. But right now, schools are doing virtual college visits. So I don't think there's anything wrong with a parent going on and signing up to take a virtual college tour just to see what a college campus looks like. You know, I've been on a couple, and they actually take you through, you know, the library and the chemistry lab, and you can just see everything virtually because you're not able to be on campus right now. And then I think teaching your kids about what's money. Let's not be afraid of money. It's important to know what all these options are to pay, but let's not be afraid of just the money conversation. I talked to a family not long ago, and they wanted to send their student to a school that was kind of expensive. And so just having those conversations is, you know, this is what we can afford. You start here, and then we can move on to the 4-year university if that's what you want to do. But just not, you know, breaking the bankroll, just having those down to earth money conversations with those students.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Great ideas. Thank you so much. I do see another question in regards to elementary school students. Yay, I'm happy to see that for our little ones. It says, so for the elementary school students, this was mostly about the savings. Not sure if maybe she can elaborate or if you understand that.
Absolutely. So there's what's called it's a tax advantage plan called a 529 savings plan. And then if you bank at a bank or a credit union, they have what's called a Coverdale savings account. So you can save money in this account. It's almost like a 401k for education. And then when you take it out, if you use it for education purposes, it's tax free when you take it out. So that's one way to save. And then, like I said earlier, I've been saving for my grandson since he was born. And, we collect recyclables, and it sounds funny sometimes, but every little bit helps. And he has a substantial college savings account. Savings accounts don't really accrue a whole lot of interest. There's not a whole lot of compound interest, but it is a way to save. I told the story last week where I take all of my receipts. How you go to the grocery store and it says you saved $12. I actually take that $12 and I put it in a jar. And then when I have a certain amount of money, I put it in his college savings account. So there's just different things you can do to help. It may not pay for his full college education, but it will cover some of those costs.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Ventrice, can you talk a little bit about, the links we put in the chat were really for the big nationals or maybe state scholarships available. Can you talk a little bit about local scholarships? Because I'm always telling students, your best place, the more likely to get the scholarship where you can are the local scholarships. Can you just talk a little bit about some of our parents, especially if you're a middle school parent, you can go to that, you want to go to that feeder high school website and find the local scholarships like the Rotaries and the Kiwanis in your area. They give good amount of money, and it's it's a smaller pool of applications. So can you talk a little bit about the local scholarships in their areas?
And that's exactly right. I'm going to have to find it. I should have, there are scholarships through Kiwanis, Chambers of Commerce, different organizations that give out these micro scholarships or these smaller scholarships to students in the community. I'll have to I do have some information on that. I just do not have it in this slide. But I would check, the very first place I would go is my high school counselor. They have access to information on, and they're probably going to kill me for saying this, but they have access to information on scholarships that may not be in one of these tools. So that's where I would start. And then the colleges and universities, if you look on their webpage, if your student wanted to go to UC Riverside and you look on their webpage, they have pages of available scholarships. You can do that for any school at all. And like I said, there's organizations, it's part of their mission to give away free money. We just have to take the initiative to apply for it.
And I put in the chat an example. I know there's a family from Marietta Valley Unified on with us. And I put an example. I just Googled Marietta Valley Unified Scholarships, local scholarships. And I was able to, while you were talking, Ventrice, come up with that link.
Absolutely. They're everywhere.
And everywhere. Those ones, I would see most of my students most likely to get because they're applying with students that live in their community. So it's not the big, the larger scholarships. So, okay. See, we do see a hand raise, so we're going to go ahead. Maya, if you can unmute yourself. If not, I can do that for you. Let's see if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, so I had a question.
Oh, you're muted.
Oh, what are the ups and downs of the scholarships?
Okay, so some ups and downs, positives or negatives, Ventrice, the scholarships?
Positive, the only negative I can see that I've ever seen is when someone gets a scholarship and they don't take the steps or do what they have to do to maintain it. So if you get a scholarship for, got a 4.0 GPA, and that's the reason I received it, and now my GPA is 3.0 and I could lose it, that is a negative. Otherwise, there really is no negative to free money.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Please, others,
Great
feel free to raise
question.
your hand or unmute yourself. Go ahead,
And I
Dr.
don't know, I imagine that our wonderful interpreters in the other room are getting questions too. So if there's any questions in Spanish, familias, si tienen preguntas en español que quieran preguntar, por favor, es bueno que puedan preguntar y recibir información importante. Just making sure they know they can ask in Spanish if they would like to do so, so we can always translate that for them.
Of course.
Perfect. No problem.
Any other questions? And please feel free to raise your hand. I know Ventrice is going to put up her contact information. If you think of something later on, we'll put that contact information up so you have that. I think another thing to think about scholarships is not all of them, a majority of them. Can you talk about, Ventrice, the scholarships that go directly to the college or university or trade school they attend, and there's some that go directly to the student. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because when you talked about paying for college, there's more than just tuition and fees. There's, you need transportation, or you need shoes, and you need clothes. So some local scholarships and some scholarships, they give the money directly to the student to use to buy a laptop or whatever they may need. So can you talk about those differences so they understand? So because some parents say, well, if my daughter gets a scholarship as a 10th grader, what happens to that money until they become a senior or
Yeah.
go to college? So can you talk a little bit about that for our parents who have, younger students?
Of course. And it depends on the scholarship provider, and they'll tell you right in the application, or they'll ask for, what school do you plan to attend? The check goes to them. They'll cover tuition, fees, whatever the cost is, and anything left over, they'll give to your student. And then there's some, I know Sallie Mae has a scholarship program we run every single year, and we send the check directly to the student so them and their family can manage that themselves. So it just depends on the scholarship provider, who they send the check to, and then how it's managed. If it goes directly to the school, they're going to cover their costs first, and they're going to give you anything that's left over. If it goes to you, then you're able to manage that scholarship how you would like to manage it. And I just looked up for our Spanish speaking parents and students. I looked up scholarships just for Spanish speakers or Hispanic students, and there are tons of them, like a lot. I'll try to type this. I'll put it in the chat so you can see.
Okay.
But there are quite a few.
So we did get a question about apps, and we've actually had our counselors have heard from Raise Me. It's another app that kind of does micro scholarship that teaches, different. If you go to this private school and get this GPA, you can earn this President's Scholarship. So can you talk a little bit about the other apps like Raise Me, Scholarship Owl, Niche?
Yeah, and Raise Me got really good reviews. I did a little bit of research on them. Some of them I'm not too familiar with. Unigo that I just put in the chat, they have scholarships for all kinds of things. There's tons on here. Raise Me is a good one. Like you just said, Catalina, there's probably a good maybe 50 to 75 reputable scholarship search tools out there. But like I said before, if they ask you for any money, I would just move on to the next one, because you do not have to pay for a scholarship.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I do see another hand raised, and that's Miss Anita Schaefer. If you want to unmute yourself, Miss Schaefer, and ask your question, we'd be happy to receive it.
I had a question. I actually have two sets of children. My older set have already graduated from
Miss Schaefer,
college.
we cannot hear you.
Oh,
I can hear her.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you. Yes.
The problem I ran into with my first set of children is, as a single mother, I make enough money that they didn't quite qualify for aid or assistance. And there's not very many programs out there for children who are not minority. What would you recommend in that case?
So yes, so when you fill out the free application for federal student aid, the Department of Education uses a formula, and they're going to give the free money to the students with the, well, what they consider have the most need first. I mean, anybody's eligible for student loans. You can make $5 million and you can still get a federal student loan. It's just the grants and the institutional type scholarships or grants that your student may not have been eligible for. There are hundreds and thousands of scholarships out there for all types of people, so not just minorities. But you're correct. When you go to college, they're going to give the grants and institutional aid to what they consider the most neediest students first. But I've never seen where they're just giving the funds to a minority population. It's just spread across. It might, anybody who's high need, it's just spread across that population first.
So I put in the chat too for you for as well. So here's an example of California Student Aid Commission. So we have state financial aid and then there's federal financial aid. And then the state financial aid is based, there's criteria of GPA. So it's called the Cal Grant GPA. And then there's family income. And so I put in the chat those income ceilings so you can take a look for this year. If a family made this much money and the student, had this many in the household, if they fall within that threshold, they were given a Cal Grant A or a Cal Grant B to kind of help explain like the state financial aid. So like Ventrice has shared, it's primarily it's always need-based, the income need-based. And I know what that happens as well. My daughter applied to college. I didn't get any of the need-based aid. I did get academic merit aid. So my daughter, based on her grades and her academics, she did earn some money, but not based on need. Another thing to keep in mind is there is middle income scholarships. So middle income scholarships, I'll put that little information. The state recognized, and this is pretty recent, so maybe that it's probably maybe wasn't in effect when your older children went to school. So I'm going to put that in the chat. But the middle income scholarship is another. It's what they've put into place recently for families, just like you described. Then I'm not, I don't have the $20,000 they say I do to pay for college, but my son or daughter they do want to go to school. So I put in this chat again, middle income scholarship. And so that income ceiling is much higher. And then there is free money based in terms of grants from the state of California. So middle income scholarship and Cal Grant are for California residents that stay in California, regardless of, like Ventrice, it doesn't matter ethnicity, it's just income and merit. I'm going to say in my experience, majority of the scholarships are usually academic geared or a lot of academic and merit based. So when you do some searching with those, it's usually, they have to have a certain GPA or a certain, extracurricular, more than in terms of the diversity piece. So definitely, I'd say explore the Sallie Mae links that we shared. If you look on your local scholarship list as well as another opportunity. And then I'm going to put my email in the chat. So if you want to set up some time to just because it's hard to do it in a live webinar with everyone on. If you want to set up some time, anyone that's on, to kind of go over some scholarships or some additional questions, please send me an email and I can set up an appointment and we can sit down and go over that together for you, Mr. Schaefer, because I want to make sure you get all the information you can. And I don't want you to be worried about, okay, I got my second set and I couldn't, I totally get it. And we want to help you. So please shoot me an email and we can set up a time to get together. Okay.
I think.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's where we have those conversations, because when you receive those award letters, it'll have on there middle income scholarship or this type of institutional aid. Those are conversations we have at the table. Okay, student, here's what we got from this school, and here's what we got from this school, and this is the the amount that we now have to come up with.
Mhm.
So you're exactly right. And if
And
I
then-
can help in any way, I'm happy to answer any questions too.
Oh, thanks, Ventrice. And the middle income scholarship, students and families goes up to 184,000. So the income ceiling's much higher. So that's the, you know, criteria that, okay, the income's higher, maybe I can get a little bit of money through there. And then also you have, you know, like community colleges, majority of our community colleges have the Promise program where they get 1 year free of community college. So there's different avenues. I don't want you to get, please parents and students, I don't want you to think, how am I gonna afford to pay? We will help you. Send me an email. We'll give you a one-on-one appointment and we'll make sure you feel supported and you get the help you need. I don't want you to be afraid of the cost of college. Even if you have to take a little bit of loans, student loans, especially if you're first in your family to go to college, like myself and Dr. Gatto, we had to take out some loans to help pay for school, but I wouldn't change it. I don't even call them loans. I call them investments. I made an investment in my future, and believe me, I could pay it back very quickly once I started teaching. My first job was I was a teacher. So I don't want you to be worried about the cost. Let me help sit down and help you navigate through those individual conversations. Okay, and I know we're at time. I don't want to leave anyone with any additional questions. Dr. Gatto, do you see any other questions?
No, I don't see any more. Any more questions, folks?
Okay, I'm putting my email again in the chat. Please send me an email anytime, and we're here to help you. And before we close out, Ventrice, I don't know if you have any final words or recommendations or any words of encouragement. I don't want them to be afraid of the cost of college.
No, do not be afraid. I went to community college first. That was just my choice because one of my parents passed away. So my mother couldn't afford. So I went to community college first, and then I transferred to a 4-year university. In California, if you go to community college, like Catalina said, under the Promise program, then you get priority when you enroll in a California state school. So don't count that out. There's nothing wrong with going to a 2-year school first, getting that out of the way. It's pretty much free, and then transferring to a 4-year university. Thank you, Catalina.
Thank you. Dr. Gatto, do you have any final words of encouragement or just your experience too? Because I know you're like me. Don't be afraid. We had to pay for our school and took out a little bit of loans, but any words of encouragement for our family and students?
Yes, thank you. I would just say, gosh, there's so much money left on the table every single year with financial aid. I'm sure you know the figure, Catalina, but so much out there because we don't know. We don't know what's out there. We're afraid to ask. We think there's barriers. So please, please know that there's money out there for all of you. You just got to get your hands on it. Ask the right questions. I would definitely, if you take anything back from this presentation, resources, check those out. But go to your school counselors. They're there to serve you. Ask for an appointment. It's your right as parents. Get out there and make sure they can tell you what's available to your students for sure. And start young. You know, start young. If you have any questions or you want ideas or need support for your little ones, definitely reach out. We're here to help you. I have tons of resources I can pass your way too, but just happy that you're here. Thank you all for being here. I know it's Wednesday afternoon, it's the evening, and you could be anywhere else. Just appreciate that you are here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And we will follow up. You'll get an email with this PowerPoint, this recording. So you'll have Ventrice's contact information. And I just want to say a huge thank you to our interpreters here tonight helping us out. Just thank you for your help and your support so we can make sure all of our families in Riverside County. Like I mentioned earlier, Dr. Gomez wants you to feel empowered as parents and students. We can pay for college. Don't be afraid. You have our email address. You just have to ask, and we're here to help and we're here to support you. And if any seniors, one last call, if there's any seniors or families of seniors that have not done their FAFSA or California Dream Act yet, that's okay. Send me an email. I will make an appointment with you so we can get your FAFSA done and submit it as soon as possible. Okay, so it's not too late. It's after March 2nd. There's still other financial aid and grants that you're eligible for, if not state aid. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have an awesome evening. Thank you, Ventrice, for again coming back and supporting our families in Riverside County.
Absolutely. You know, I love Riverside.
I know. we love you too,
you.
Ventrice. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.